Motivation is one of the most misunderstood forces in human psychology. People often think it's a matter of willpower, discipline, or waking up one day feeling magically inspired. But the truth is far more complex and far more interesting. Your brain doesn't create motivation randomly. It calculates it like an internal algorithm designed to protect you, conserve your energy, and help you survive. When you understand this hidden process, you stop blaming yourself for inconsistency and finally start working with your brain instead of against it. The first thing you need to know is that your brain is wired for efficiency, not achievement. It does not care about your dreams, your goals, or the person you wish to become. It only cares about conserving calories and keeping you safe. Every time you think about doing something difficult or unfamiliar, your brain performs a quick scan. Is this worth the effort? Is this safe? Will this give me a reward? If the answer isn't an immediate yes, your brain shuts down the impulse. It distracts you, negotiates with you, or pushes you towards something easier. This is why you can scroll on your phone for hours without resistance, but struggle to start something that genuinely matters. Most people assume they lack motivation, but what they really lack is clarity. The brain hates vagueness. When you think I should get healthier, your brain sees a giant fog. Too many steps, no clear reward, too much uncertainty. But if you say, I will walk for 10 minutes after lunch, the fog clears. The brain now has a small, simple, predictable task. It knows exactly what to do and what outcome to expect. This is why small steps feel easier. They align with how the brain naturally operates, yet we often sabotage ourselves by aiming for huge leaps without understanding the psychology behind motivation. Another hidden truth is that your brain is addicted to immediate rewards. Whenever you think about something that will pay off in the future, like studying, exercising, or building a new habit, your brain compares it to the reward it could get right now. If the present reward is stronger, it wins. This is the core of procrastination, not laziness, but a mismatch between long-term goals and short-term dopamine. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter of anticipation, and your brain constantly asks, what gives me dopamine fastest? This is why notifications, food, entertainment, or even daydreaming can hijack your mind long before you start something productive. But there's more. The brain also predicts how much effort something will take, and this prediction is often inaccurate. If your brain believes a task will be unpleasant, difficult, or uncertain, it lowers your motivation before you even begin. What's fascinating is that the moment you actually start the task, the brain recalculates. This is why just beginning, even for a minute, often makes motivation rise. Your brain realizes the task isn't as painful as expected, and starts releasing more dopamine to keep you going. Starting is not just a motivational cliché, it is a biological hack. A major reason people can stay consistent is because they rely on emotional motivation instead of structural motivation. Emotional motivation is unstable. It depends on how you feel, what happened that day, your stress levels, your energy, and your environment. Structural motivation, on the other hand, is built on habits, triggers, routines, and systems. It doesn't care how you feel, it moves on autopilot. Each time you repeat a behavior, your brain strengthens the neural pathway associated with it. After enough repetition, the behavior becomes easier than skipping it. This is why people who exercise regularly need motivation every day. Their brain has automated the process. But this automation only happens through repetition, not inspiration. Another reason your motivation disappears is because of what psychologists call identity conflict. When the thing you're trying to do doesn't align with how you see yourself, your brain will resist it. If deep down you believe you're someone who gives up easily, tasks that require consistency will feel heavier. If you believe you're undisciplined, your brain will find excuses to match that identity. Your actions follow your self-concept, not your desires. Changing your identity is one of the most powerful ways to build lasting motivation. You don't say, "I want to write." You say, "I am someone who writes." You don't say, "I want to get fit." You say, "I am a person who exercises." When identity shifts, motivation becomes natural. Another psychological factor is that people often set goals that are too big, too vague, or too dependent on perfection. Perfectionism destroys motivation because it creates a mental equation where anything less than ideal equals failure. The brain hates failure, so it avoids trying. But when you embrace imperfect action, motivation rises because the brain sees progress instead of threat. Progress is the most powerful motivator of all. Even tiny progress releases dopamine and creates a positive feedback cycle. Effort, progress, reward, more effort. This loop is the engine of consistency. You also lose motivation because of something called cognitive overload. Your brain has a limited amount of mental energy each day. When you overwhelm yourself with too many tasks, decisions, or expectations, your brain shuts down motivation to protect itself. This is why simplifying your environment, routines, and goals can dramatically increase motivation. The fewer decisions you must make, the more energy you can dedicate to things that matter. And there's another hidden truth. Your brain rewards novelty. Doing the same thing in the same way becomes boring, and boredom kills motivation. But if you introduce small variations, a new location, a new tool, a new challenge, your brain wakes up. It becomes curious. Curiosity is a form of intrinsic motivation, far stronger than discipline alone. Your brain also responds to social motivation. Humans are wired to perform better when behavior is witnessed, supported, or validated by others. This is why working with a friend, sharing your progress online, or joining a group can significantly increase consistency. Your brain doesn't want to disappoint the tribe, a survival instinct millions of years old. Finally, motivation often dies because people underestimate recovery. Your brain cannot produce consistent motivation if it's constantly stressed, sleep-deprived, or overwhelmed. Rest is not a break from progress, it is part of the process. A rested brain is a motivated brain. A tired brain seeks the easiest path. This is the hidden psychology of motivation, a complex interplay of biology, identity, reward, environment, and energy. When you understand these principles, motivation stops being a mystery. It becomes a system you can build, control, and sustain. Understanding motivation at this level allows you to reshape your entire approach to progress. But knowing the psychology is only the beginning. The real transformation happens when you apply these principles to your daily life. The way motivation works inside the brain means that small changes can produce massive results over time. Each time you adjust your environment, simplify your goals, or shift your identity, you're training your brain to feel safe with progress instead of threatened by it. And the more you work with your brain instead of fighting against it, the easier consistency becomes. One of the most powerful shifts is learning to focus on the process instead of the outcome. Most people chase the finish line, the perfect body, the degree, the money, the successful project, but outcomes create pressure, and pressure creates avoidance. The brain begins to fear failure because the outcome becomes too important. When you shift your attention to the process, everything changes. You stop thinking, "I need to lose weight," and start thinking, "I'm the kind of person who takes care of my body today." You stop thinking, "I need to write a book," and start thinking, "I am the kind of person who writes a little every day." Processes build identity, and identity sustains motivation. Another insight is understanding that motivation lives in the present, not the future. The future is abstract. It has no emotional weight. That's why telling yourself, "I'll start tomorrow," feels easy. The brain feels no urgency because tomorrow doesn't exist yet. But when you bring the goal into the present moment, the brain responds differently. The question isn't, will I succeed someday? But, what is the next small step I can take right now? When you shrink the timeline, you shrink resistance. Your brain only needs to cooperate for a few minutes, not for an entire lifetime. But one of the biggest breakthroughs comes when you accept that motivation is not a personality trait. It is not something you either have or don't have. It is a state, a temporary state created by a combination of clarity, reward, energy, identity, and environment. This means you can engineer motivation, you can create it, and the more you learn how it works, the more consistent you become. One of the most misunderstood ideas is the belief that motivated people feel motivated all the time. They don't. What they have is a collection of habits, systems, triggers, and routines that carry them forward even when emotional motivation disappears. Emotional motivation is unstable. Structural motivation is reliable. Emotional motivation fades when life gets stressful. Structural motivation continues even in difficult moments. This is why the world's most disciplined people don't depend on inspiration. They depend on systems. Another important aspect of motivation is learning to manage self-sabotage. Self-sabotage is not a flaw, it is a protection mechanism. When your brain senses that a goal threatens your identity, your comfort zone, or your energy, it sabotages you to keep you safe. If you want to break self-sabotage, you must understand the fear behind it. Sometimes the fear is failure, sometimes it's success, sometimes it's judgment from others, and sometimes it's simply the fear of change. The brain prefers familiar pain over unfamiliar growth because familiarity feels safer. Recognizing this fear is the first step to dissolving it. You must also understand that motivation grows when you build trust with yourself. Every time you say you'll do something and actually do it, even something small, you strengthen your internal self-trust. This trust is a psychological foundation for long-term consistency. But when you constantly break promises to yourself, the brain learns that your words don't matter. It stops believing your intentions. This is why small, realistic commitments are far more powerful than dramatic goals that you abandon after 2 days. Each completed promise is a deposit in your internal confidence bank. Another powerful factor is understanding the dopamine cycle. Most people use dopamine incorrectly. They wait for dopamine to start, when dopamine is designed to reward action, not precede it. The real dopamine spike comes from progress, not anticipation. This means the secret to creating motivation is starting before you feel ready. Your brain will reward you once you begin. You generate motivation through action, not the other way around. Action creates momentum, and momentum sustains motivation. But if you want long-term consistency, you must also learn how to protect your mental energy. Motivation dies when your mind is overloaded. Too many tasks, too many notifications, too many priorities, too many expectations. All of this creates cognitive fatigue. When your brain becomes mentally exhausted, it defaults to the easiest possible behavior, which is usually procrastination or distraction. Protecting your attention is one of the highest forms of self-care. A clear mind produces consistent motivation. A cluttered mind produces excuses. One hidden factor that almost no one talks about is how your social environment shapes your motivation. Humans are tribal beings. We mirror the behaviors, beliefs, and priorities of the people around us. If you surround yourself with people who constantly complain, procrastinate, and avoid challenges, your brain learns to do the same. But if you surround yourself, even digitally, with people who pursue growth, take action, and value discipline, your brain begins to mirror that instead. Your environment is either pulling you upward or holding you down, and many people never realize how deeply this affects their behavior. Another important layer is emotional regulation. Most people think motivation is about doing things when you feel good, but true motivation is about doing things despite how you feel. Your emotions fluctuate constantly. Stress, boredom, anxiety, sadness, and even excitement can affect your behavior. If your actions depend on emotion, you'll be inconsistent forever. But when you build systems that function regardless of emotion, you gain control over your life. This is the psychology behind consistency. Not controlling how you feel, but controlling what you do in spite of how you feel. The last insight is this. Motivation is not about becoming someone new. It is about returning to the version of yourself that you know you can be. The version that takes responsibility, the version that shows up, the version that is capable of more than you think. The brain resists change because it fears uncertainty. But when you show it evidence, small actions, repeated consistently, it begins to transform. Motivation becomes a habit. Consistency becomes your natural state, and your goals become inevitable outcomes of the person you've become. You don't need to chase motivation. You need to build it. You need to understand it. And once you do, you realize that motivation was never the problem. Misunderstanding motivation was. If you want to change your life, start small. Start today. Start now. Your brain doesn't need perfection. It needs direction, and every tiny action you take becomes proof that you are capable of more than you ever believed. This is how motivation truly works. This is how consistency is built. This is how transformation begins, not with force, but with understanding, not with pressure, but with clarity, not with waiting, but with action. You already have everything you need inside you. All that's missing is the first step, repeated enough times to create a new identity. And once your identity shifts, your future does too. If this message resonated with you, make sure to stay with us here. Every week we explore the human mind, hidden behaviors, and psychological truths that help you grow, heal, and evolve. Don't forget to subscribe, join the journey, and unlock the power of your mind, because your transformation starts now.